And we're back for episode 265 of
The Horror Guys.
Yay!
Yay, I'm Kevin.
I'm Brian.
And we're going to talk about some horror movies, aren't we?
Did you ever get on YouTube and start a video and it turned out it's just, a blank screen and people talking?
Yeah.
Don't you find that really annoying?
Not at all. Some of the best videos are like that.
Really?
Yes.
I totally hate those.
Horror Guys, for instance.
Well, Horror Guys just happens to have one of those videos that's on YouTube that's not really a video. It's just a podcast. Audio podcast with a YouTube video. And
So you could watch that, or you could listen to the podcast.
I much prefer regular podcasts if I'm doing something like that.
Yeah, me too.
And if you want to, if you're, we've noticed that we've got a little bit of an uptick lately on our YouTube channel. I don't understand it. I don't like listening to podcasts on YouTube.
It's a preference. It's
If
okay.
that's your thing, that's fine. We're there every week at, I'm not even sure how you find it, but it's on YouTube. But the easy way, if you've got a regular podcatching software, I like Overcast, but Apple Podcast, Google Play, Amazon, I think Spotify.
Wherever fine podcasts are played.
Just go to horrorguyspodcast.com and subscribe there, and you'll get us audio only in your audio player every week.
Yeah.
Much simpler. But if you'd like to read, you can go over to horrorbulletin.com, sign up for our free weekly newsletter, where you can read everything that we talk about in the podcast, plus a couple of bonus episodes, of bonus movies.
And if you really, really like to read, there's a lot of books available.
There are. HorrorGuysShop.com. We've got books on all the movies of Vincent Price, all the movies of Peter Cushing, all the movies of Boris Karloff, all the movies from Universal Horror Movies, all the Hammer movies, and some fiction, Tales to Make You Shiver, Volume 1 and Volume 2. HorrorGuysShop.com.
You betcha.
All right, now that we got the blatant advertising out of the way,
we're
going to talk about some horror movies.
We are our own sponsor.
Yes, we are. What did we watch?
Oh, we're going to start out with, we got Rebirth, which was late last year, very new.
2023?
Yeah. And then a couple of oldies with Nightflyers from 1987 and Wishmaster from 1997. And we'll go back to the Old West with Bone Tomahawk from 2016.
Back in my day, we used bone tomahawks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, way back in the day.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple bonus films that we're going to just briefly mention, but you can check out fully on the website. It's Saw 6, the series continues, and House at the End of the Street, which was 2012.
We recently started watching all the Saw movies, and is 6 the latest that we've seen so far?
It is.
We haven't seen 7.
We need to see.
Is it? What is the
one.
7th one? It's not Saw 7. It's got a name. Is that Spiral?
Spiral, I think, is the 7th
Yeah.
one. Yeah, which is kind of a prequel, if I remember.
Have you seen it?
I have not.
Okay, I have not seen that one yet either.
I saw a list once, and now I don't remember what the list said. It says the order of them, and one is a prequel that takes place before the first Saw movie. I think that's Jigsaw.
That's the one where he wears his hat backwards and that makes him young?
Yeah.
Seen the memes.
We'll see.
All right. Well, this week we are starting off with a newish one from Rebirth from 2023. Directed by Laura Moss, written by her and also Brendan J. O'Brien. Stars Judy Rise, Marin Ireland, Breda Wool, Monique Gabriella Kernan. Hour and 41 minutes. I think this one's from Shudder.
And there's a trailer in the show notes.
Yes, there is. Spoiler free, what happens?
Spoiler free? Well, this has a little bit of a slow start while we figure out what's going on, but it really gets going nicely. You mix a hint of Frankenstein with modern science and obsession and some desperate motherhood, and you end up with something like this. It was really a winner. We liked it a lot.
Yeah, it was very good.
Yeah.
Kind of body horror-ish.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Well, okay, I'm not going to spoil this to death because it is a fairly recent one. You probably have not seen it.
But you should.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Well, we open in an ambulance as the EMT works on a patient. In the ER, the nurses say, "Your baby's going to be okay." "What about me?" says the mother. There's no answer.
Yeah.
And then later we hear that the mother has died in the OR. We see the baby being cared for in the maternity ward, while elsewhere, Dr. Rose does an autopsy on the mother. After the autopsy, she puts some organs and samples in a suitcase and wheels them out.
Now, I'm no expert in the field, but I don't think that's typical for doctors to take chunks and samples home with them after an autopsy like that.
It's homework.
Yeah,
It's perfectly normal.
In her case, it is. Yeah.
Well, that's when the credits roll. We cut back to Celie, the maternity nurse. She's really tired as she picks up her daughter Lila up from the daycare. We see that Rose is not a fun coworker, and she's not a very fun person at the bar either. She's weird.
Mm-hmm.
She goes into the restroom with a bar patron and gets him off. Hey, you want to go in the restroom with me? I'll do you right now.
Yeah, just
And he's
yeah.
like, okay.
Basically he says hello and she says,
Get lost.
No, she doesn't.
She's clearly not interested in him, but then all of a sudden she's like, yeah, all right.
Yeah, well, she's there for a reason. She wants a sample.
She collects the semen in a collection device. She then goes home and administers an IV into her pet pig. Then she impregnates herself with the guy's semen from before.
Huh.
And we're starting to think this movie's getting a little weird at this point.
Yes, we were thinking that. Yeah.
At Celie's house, Lila is sick and can't go to daycare, so Celie leaves the girl with Pauline, who I think is her sister. She drops her phone on the toilet at work, and by the time she gets home, she finds that Pauline has taken Lila to the hospital and she's very sick. By the time she gets to the hospital, Lila has died from meningitis.
Dang.
Now, I'm no expert on meningitis, but this seemed to be awfully sudden and out of the blue. Does it work like that?
I think awful things can happen like that sometimes. It's rare, but yeah.
Celie goes to the morgue and talks to Rose, who says Lila was already sent to the medical examiner. She later sees Rose standing next to a big suitcase, putting a suitcase into her car in the garage.
And we all know what was in that suitcase.
Well, after the weekend, Celie goes to the medical examiner's office, but they say they don't have a body either. She then tracks down Rose, who knows she's in trouble, but Rose drives away. Celie confronts Rose at her home and barges inside.
Yeah, she's persistent.
She finds Lila alive in her bed, hooked to a bunch of medical equipment.
And what triggered Celie to do that, Celie's a nurse, and there was a medical alarm going off inside. When there's IV equipment and so
Beep,
forth,
beep, beep, beep.
she recognized, like, okay, something's not right, and barged her way in, and there's her daughter. What? With her daughter who died?
Rose says no, Lila did die. She really was dead, but she's brought her back. In the next room is Muriel the pig, who died 2 months ago and also has been brought back. She's using a serum from fetal pigs for Muriel that triggers cell regeneration. But Lila requires a serum made from human fetal cells. Celie offers to stay with her daughter and help with the experiments.
And they become roomies and best friends.
And it goes well after that.
And
There's
it's
no drama whatsoever
It's
after
a happy,
that. Yeah.
happy story of two happy women living together. Right?
With their adopted zombie daughter.
Right. Well, things get more complicated.
It does.
Yeah.
It moves pretty slowly, but once it gets going, it really gets going. The first 45 minutes, not a whole lot happens, just weirdness.
But
it becomes clear what's happening.
Yeah, once it does.
More than what I've spoiled already, even.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The body horror and gore effects are very realistic. It seems almost like a medical drama at times.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty good. How far would you go to save your child? Apparently, there are no real limits.
Yeah.
Yeah, we both like this one.
Uh-huh. Very good.
Going way back to the 1980s, 1987 to be exact, we've got Nightflyers, directed by Robert Collector. What do you think he collects?
He collects movies.
Bad movies. Written by George R.R. Martin. Oh my. And Robert Jaffe.
Some of his early work, based on a short story. I think it was only short. I read the short story.
Was the short story good?
It was way better than this movie was. Yeah.
This movie was trying to be something. It was trying to be moody. I don't know. What was this movie trying to be?
It was trying to be things.
Stars Catherine Mary Stewart, Michael Prade, John Standing, and Lisa Blount. Hour and 29 minutes. Trailer in the show notes.
Can I say the spoiler free?
But first, before you watch the trailer,
Yeah.
notice how blurry everything is in that trailer.
Uh-huh.
We thought it was just a crappy trailer off of VHS or something. No, the whole movie's like that.
It's a director's choice.
It was a choice, yes.
Yeah, everything is smoky and hazy, and atmospheric, I guess. That makes it sci-fi-y, more sci-fi-ish.
Okay, well, let's see. Spoiler free. This is a grim science fiction tale with some horror elements. It's very 80s and very smoky and foggy to give it a futuristic, dreamlike effect. Because in the future, everything is smoky.
Right, even inside spaceships.
The story is kind of interesting, but there's too much telling and not enough showing. They get this big budget sci-fi story and $12 to make a movie. It's adapted from an early story from George R.R. Martin. It's kind of draggy overall, and the entertainment value has not held up.
No, I thought it was more draggy than entertaining.
I think I saw this in the theater when it came out. I
saw it
remember
later.
hating it.
Okay.
But yeah, I hate it now.
Yeah. It's got a big story, big ideas, but yeah.
Well, tell us the story.
Avalon Spaceport in the 21st century. D. Brannon, a scientist, has decoded an alien signal from the Velkrans, and he's assembled a team with some questionable credentials. Audrey is a linguist. Keylor is a biologist. Daryl is the documentarian and chef. Lily is a cryptologist and computer expert. John Winderman is a Class 10 telepath who has an assistant, Eliza. And he kept reminding me of Siegfried and Roy's look, and his mannerisms. And, he was like channeling both of them in one person.
He's like a TV psychic in the future.
Yeah. Or Uri Geller. Yeah, there was a little of that in there, too.
I think that was the point, yes.
Yeah. Well, Miranda narrates all this, and she's going along for reasons. I mean, basically, she's like, a space person.
Manager or something.
Yeah, manager of the mission, and she knows space. Their ship is called the Nightflyer.
Okay, Kevin has just told you a bunch of stuff. And that's exactly the way we get it in the movie. They tell us all this stuff.
Yeah, Miranda's narrating it.
I mean, we kind of see the people flash on screen, but this is this person. This is this person. This is this other person. This person is here because of this. And absolutely nothing is actually happening at this point. We're just being told all these things.
There's too much telling in it.
There is.
But I'm gonna tell you some more.
Tell us some more.
Yeah. Well, Miranda continues. Something was odd about this ship, and we all sensed it. DeBrannon had been very evasive about the captain, and they don't actually see a captain or anybody when they go on board. The telepath and his friend are the last to arrive, and the captain welcomes them over the loudspeaker, and they all watch the takeoff through their projection ceiling. Well, Captain Royd Eris appears to the group in holographic form. DeBrannon...
If he gets angry, do they call it Royd Rage? Royd Rage? Can't even say it.
Royd Rage, yeah.
Royd.
DeBrannon admits that the ship is so advanced that the captain can just stay in as captain and everything is automated and run by remote. Well, Miranda and the holo captain share a look. Give her the eye, give it back. The telepath, John, picks up something strange. Everyone splits up to explore the huge ship. DeBrannon says that they may be the first humans that Royd has ever taken on board, which makes you wonder who else is there.
Yeah, they never mention aliens of any kind, so who's he been flying around?
And it's clearly designed
it's got chairs
for people.
And tables and human furniture.
It's not just this crude cargo ship. It's definitely designed for people and comfort, and there's full facilities. It's really nice and comfortable. So,
somebody wasn't thinking about adding that line.
Yeah. Well, they all go to bed, but the little red cameras watch Miranda sleep. All the cameras are watching everybody. And the next day, Miranda does a workout, and Holo Royd watches that as well. He actually appears to take in that show rather than just peep by way of the cameras. As they talk, John wakes up. There's something bothering the telepath. During work, Lily says she can't access the computer. Miranda sketches Royd's face and asks him why he stays in his cabin. Well, he says that his mother built the ship. After 30 years of flying the ship, she got bored, and he is her cross-sex clone, bred to be her companion. And then his mother died before his birth, and the ship's computer raised him. The gravity in any parts of the ship other than his room is agony for him. He's used to the 0G, and he also has no natural immunity, so he would die of germs. Direct contact with humans would probably be fatal. He'd wants to take her. He wants her to take him off the ship when they return, whether that means his death or not. He's tired of being isolated and alone. And
That was just a whole lot of complicated exposition.
it was, yeah,
He's a clone of his mother,
yeah,
but's been changed into a male,
yeah.
raised on the ship alone, never seen a person in person before,
Never leaves his quarters
and has no immunity to human germs.
Yeah,
Okay.
yep, and can't stand gravity because he's always been in zero gravity.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why he only comes out as a hologram. Well, John is knocked out by an explosion. Oh, I think
I think you skipped
I've
over
skipped
some.
a bit. Does it matter? Okay. Well, John is really looking sick. Whatever is picking on him telepathically is getting to him. Well, John throws a tantrum and tells everyone that the ship is alive and it wants to hurt them. Suddenly, the kitchen explodes, and the ship electrifies Royd, who is really a person on the bridge, and the ship doesn't want him to leave.
For a while, we were starting to think maybe Roy was just a computer hologram simulation and he wasn't even real.
And it was just the ship.
No, he really is a real person.
Yeah, he is a person, but it seems that the ship is also a person, sort of. Well, John is knocked out by the explosion, and Daryl is badly injured. Keeler loses the medical computer to literally put the pieces of his hand back together. DeBrannon says it must have been a gas leak. Well, they all want to turn back, but Miranda says the computer won't let Royd turn around or leave. Audrey and Keeler get a gun from somewhere and go after the computer. Meanwhile, John has a drug that will enhance his abilities to get to the bottom of all this. He takes it and sees the soul of the ship, which isn't pretty. John says that the computer is actually Royd's mother, who transferred her consciousness into the machinery. She'd kill us all to keep him, and she lives in a stone crypt in the bottom of the ship. DeBrannon goes looking for John, but finds Eliza's corpse instead. Miranda and John continue to talk, and it looks like he has become Royd's mother mentally. He's kind of possessed. And he injects... Who does he inject here? I think there's a mistake there.
Miranda, probably.
Oh, he injects Miranda with the drug as well. Yeah, that's right. Well, Keeler says that if something was going to go wrong, it would have by now, and Daryl laughs. Everything's going wrong. Well, Miranda wakes up. Yeah, he did drug her, and fights with possessed John in the medical bay, and there's lasers shooting all over the place. She messes him up pretty badly, and the computer cuts him up in the medical bed.
Chop, chop.
Yeah. Daryl, Lily, and Audrey look for answers in the computer until the computer opens an airlock and kills Lily. She's getting too close. Royd finds a way out of his chair and comes out of his cabin for real. He goes to see Adara, his mother. He smashes the wiring going into her crypt, and the ship shuts down. Well, Roy says, good news, he shut down the computer. But the cargo bays won't close. They're stuck open, and they'll all die if they can't close those doors in 3 hours. So it's time for a field trip outside. Daryl, Keeler, Audrey, DeBren, and Miranda go outside in little ships to do repair work.
Sounds like a good way to cut down some of the cast.
It sure does. Royd comes out in his little mini ship to help Miranda. Royd says if they can fix the damage, he can get them home manually. Keeler is jealous and paranoid and spies on the two of them talking. He doesn't stop whining. Well, inside, the computer is not dead after all. Comes back to life. Keeler rushes inside to kill the computer, and the ship won't let Royd back inside. The ship projects something outside that lures DeBrennan away until his pod explodes, and everyone else heads inside. Mother shoots Audrey, and headless, reanimated John stabs Daryl. So there's pandemonium and bodies racking up. Well, Royd and Miranda find a way back inside, and headless John attacks Miranda until Royd shoots him repeatedly. Royd and Mother shoot lightning from their minds at each other, and the gravity comes back on. A pipe organ comes out of nowhere to play ominous music, and there's explosions everywhere, and it's all very hectic. The physical manifestation of Adara appears out of nowhere. She's like a zombie, and attacks Royd until Miranda stabs her in the back. Happy ending, sorta. The ship's all dead and disabled, so they climb into Royd's little ship and take off through a hole in the hull, watching Nightflyer explode in the distance. And they continue on to meet the Velkrans. the aliens, the first mission.
Okay.
It's yeah, it's kind of a hot mess.
The movie has a blurry, smoky look, which I think was probably the worst part. This was a directorial choice to make it all dreamy and futuristic. It's never been released on DVD or Blu-ray, but the blurriness is not a result of watching a ripped VHS tape. Really, it's not a bug, it's a feature.
Mm-hmm.
Yee. This would be my primary complaint with the film, and it doesn't hold up well even beyond that. It's based on a short story by George R.R. Martin, and it's been told and redone a few times since then. There is a Nightflyers TV series.
Oh, is there?
That ran, I think, 2 years.
Oh, okay.
I have not seen it.
Okay.
But this was the original adaptation. It's very 80s, from the fashions to the soundtrack. Kind of rips off Alien in a few places, but it's different enough to stay interesting. Was it a happy ending? No, because Royd's going to die the first time he encounters someone with the sniffles.
But he's free. Yeah. I mean, he's probably not going to make it anywhere. Miranda's germs are going to kill him.
Yeah.
They're in, a close quarters, one ship kind of thing. And yeah.
Yeah, that little ship he's in is like a smaller than a phone booth, and it's not the bigger on the inside kind.
It's cozy.
It's going to be a long ride.
Yeah.
Did you fart?
No. No.
There's nobody else in here.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that takes us to our short film for the day. This one is called Rhyme or Die, 2024. Written and directed by Max R. Lincoln. Stars Bethan Cullinane, Victor Ali, Mohammad Amiri, and Samuel Blinken. 10:48, and you can watch this one on YouTube.
Absolutely free.
It is very, very British.
Yeah, it is.
Had trouble understanding a couple of the characters at times.
Oh, I didn't.
Very
Yeah.
British.
Yeah, you mentioned needing subtitles, and I didn't. I was fine with that.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, what happens?
Well, 5 people wake up in a saw-like room, each with a collar around his or her neck.
It's going to be traps. We know it's going to be traps.
Yep. Well, a voice comes on the speaker. Rhyme or die, I'm your host, Dynamo. She explains the rules. And they have to go around a circle and rhyme, like sing and rap kind of rhyming, or else she'll push that big button. And we don't want to know what that does. If they refuse to play, she activates the shock collars. And the collars do more than shock, too. How far can they go? And who will be eliminated? Who will survive?
There can be only one.
Will there? Yeah.
It's a whole new kind of rap battle, this time with all the fun of Saw. It's the situation and the gore effects are very well done, although the premise of the game is a little silly, and we never find out why they're doing this.
A little, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad this one did have the subtitles. Dynamo was almost a little too British for me.
Okay, yeah, I didn't have a problem with that. And I thought she was a hoot, the woman playing Dynamo. She reminded me a little bit of Amanda Plummer. I could see Amanda Plummer doing that role.
Okay. Just weird.
Yeah, just weird. And you did watch it through the credits, didn't you? Her dancing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious too. At the end of it, through the credits.
Yeah, she's around for the whole thing.
She's doing her own dance. So yeah, if you watch it, stay through the credits. Yeah.
Oh, I don't think I said the run time. It was it's a little less than 11 minutes, so it's short.
Yep.
That's why it's a short film.
Yeah. But, yeah, I thought that one was a winner.
All right, now on to A Wishmaster from 1997, directed by Robert Kurtzman. Written by Peter Arkins, stars Tammy Lauren, Andrew Divoff, Angus Scrimm, Tony Todd, and Robert Englund. Well,
What a
some names
cast.
there.
What
Yeah.
a cast.
Hour and 30 minutes. Spoiler free, what happens?
Well, this is an interesting take on the genie mythos. He's an incredible, powerful being, but he's hobbled with the requirements of a wish being made and some rules that he's obligated to follow. So that makes things interesting. But he still manages to do plenty of bad things. Andrew Divoff is great in the role, both in his monstrous and his human form. I thought it's one that held up for entertainment value.
There were, I don't know how many, some sequels to this, so obviously it was pretty good at the time.
Uh-huh.
I'm surprised it's not an ongoing thing. This is one of those things that could be almost unlimited.
Oh, yeah.
You could have a lot of sequels to this.
Yeah, you could.
But they didn't. Don't know why.
They should have.
Well, this is the only one I've seen. Maybe 2 and 3 get really bad.
Yeah, maybe.
We will find out eventually.
I haven't seen the sequels yet. Yeah, I saw this one when it came out, but never saw the sequels.
I may have seen this one on TV at some point. It looked vaguely familiar,
Mm-hmm.
but I did not see this one at the theater. All right, well, credits roll as we watch someone creating a perfect red gem. In 1127 AD, a ruler asks a jinn to see wonders. He should have been more specific.
Yeah, he was way too vague on that. So
Show me something cool.
Yeah, and that gives the jinn free reign.
The people at the party all die in creative and horrendous ways, and he does see it all.
Mm-hmm.
A skeleton pops out of his skin. One guy turns into a snake and another into a tree, just to name a few. It's pandemonium. The jinn says all he has to do is wish it away, but after the third wish, the gateway between the worlds will break open and the jinn will rule. A human wizard pulls out his magic crystal and traps the jinn into it.
He's the guy that was making that red crystal at the beginning.
Well, we move up to the present day, where Raymond Beaumont goes to the docks to pick up his statue of Ahura Mazda, an ancient Islamic god. The statue falls and kills his assistant, hilariously, and the gem falls out. It's soon pocketed by a dock worker who sells it to a pawnbroker.
Uh-oh.
Josh and Alexandra play tennis, and she makes it clear that he lives in the friend zone. She goes to the auctioneer's place to appraise the gem. She rubs the gem on her shirt and hears, "You woke me." She passes it on to Josh, who does lab tests on the gem. He shoots it with a laser, and it splits open, blowing the machine apart.
That's quite dramatic. Yeah.
The jinn comes out and takes over Josh's body, which now looks like the monster from Jeepers Creepers.
Yeah, he was reminiscent of that. Yeah.
I think this came first. The other one, they definitely resemble.
Mm-hmm.
Well, an angry homeless guy runs into the jinn in the alley, and he wishes that the pharmacist he doesn't like would get cancer and die. He does, in about a minute and a half. Oops.
You make a wish. Yeah.
Alex thinks Josh's death was the fault of her crystal somehow. Her sister Shannon says, "You're imagining things just like last time." We hear the whole backstory about how when they were little, Alex pulled Shannon out of a fire that killed her parents. Alex goes to see the dock worker who found the jewel in the first place. He gives her some information about the statue that fell. She goes to see Beaumont about the statue, who doesn't care about his dead assistant, only the broken sculpture. He claims not to know anything about a gem. The jinn goes to the morgue, blinds the attendant, and steals the appearance of a dead man. Across town, Alex screams and almost faints. Beaumont invites her to a party tomorrow night, and he sends her to see Wendy, an expert on the statue in the folklore department. She tells Alex all about the gem, the jinn, and the wizard who imprisoned him in it. The jinn buys a new suit and now calls himself Nathaniel. Okay. He turns to the sales clerk into a mannequin.
Because she wishes she could be beautiful forever.
Yeah,
you got to be careful what you wish around this guy.
I haven't seen anybody have a wish yet that worked out.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Alex reads up on jinns and knows how the three wishes thing works. Nathan, Jinn, goes to see Nick, Alex's boss, to get her address. Nick asks for $1 million, and instantly the airplane his mother is on explodes right after she fills in the insurance form. The Jinn then activates his crystal, which pulls the souls out of everyone who's made a wish.
Gathering that power.
Well, he didn't tell him about that fine print.
No.
Alex then talks to Wendy again, who says the world is all rational now, and a jinn would be the only magic in it. Except it's not Wendy, it's the jinn in disguise.
Uh-huh.
He reveals himself, and he's very threatening, and demonstrates that he cannot die. She wishes to know who he is, so he shows her his world. Then she wishes to go back to the real world. That's 2.
Uh-oh. Only one more, and all heck is going to break loose.
Alex gets a message that her sister Shannon has gone to Beaumont's party, and Nathan the Jinn follows Alex to the party, but the guard outside keeps the Jinn busy for a while.
Yeah, but he takes care of him.
Yeah, I wish I had an exciting job. He gets one.
Yep.
Well, the Jinn talks to Beaumont, who wishes he could host a party like the old caliphs.
Oh, careful.
Oh, my.
Careful what you wish for.
A woman turns to glass and explodes, sending shards everywhere. All hell breaks loose at the party. Old statues come to life, as does a painting of Jack the Ripper. The djinn insists, make your wish.
He wants his third wish.
Alex thinks for a minute and then wishes that the incident at the dock when the statue broke never happened.
Yeah, it happened because a guy was drinking on the job and screwed up on the crane. And she saw that in the news, and she wishes, well, I wish that so-and-so wasn't drinking on the job.
Well, then the djinn gets sucked back into the gem, and none of it happened. Alex and Josh go out on a date. Happy ending.
Yeah, I thought it was a clever way to undo it, because there wasn't anything, she could have wished for that would have, other than that.
Nothing happened.
I was kind of thinking, I remember thinking at the end of it, how is she going to get out of this?
Well, this one is just jam-packed with horror actors from the 80s and 90s, but none of them have especially big roles. It's fun how basic, mundane wishes can be so easily twisted into something nasty. There's one CGI effect that kind of looks really bad. One where he walks through sort of a transparent security guard.
The guard says, "You're going to have to, in order to get in there, you're going to have to get
Kane
through
Hodder,
me."
The security guard.
Yeah, you're going to have to get through me, and
he turns into plastic.
And the djinn says, "Oh, yeah." Well, and first he says, "Well, I wish you'd get out of here," and the djinn has to leave, and he says, I don't know, the djinn says something else, and the guard says, well, I'd like to see you try. And, ooh, that a wish? That sounded like a wish.
But most of the practical effects here are really good. It was good enough to spawn 3 sequels. All right, and so that answers that question. There are 3 of them. And now, Bone Tomahawk from 2015.
Oh, a nice Western.
Yeah, you tell me we watched this together at one point in the past, and I totally didn't remember it.
Well, I don't know about watching it together, but yeah, I'd seen it before. This was my second time.
Okay, well, I'm sure I must have seen it. I just tend to tune out Westerns.
Huh.
When I was little, we always went to my grandparents' house, and they are always watching Westerns. Gunsmoke or The Rifleman or something. And I learned to totally hate Westerns. I would never be able to watch the good shows like the cartoons and stuff because Westerns
were on.
Freaking Matt Dillon.
Oh, poor Brian.
Yeah, it sucked. So I still have this, anti-Western bias. But actually, this was a pretty good one.
Yeah, it was.
Written and directed by S. Craig Zahler. Stars Kurt Russell, Patrick Wilson, Matthew Fox, and Richard Jenkins. 2 hours and 12 minutes, almost as long as the Old West itself.
Not that long.
Spoiler free. It starts out as an easy-flowing Western with interesting and likable characters that gradually flows into a horrifying scenario. It's realistic, with a great cast and excellent script. We liked it a lot.
Yeah, I thought it was excellent.
Yeah, I'm going to say maybe the first hour is just plain old Western.
Yeah, pretty much.
I bet the first time we watched it unofficially, I got bored with a Western and went to sleep.
And zoned out on
something, yes.
Yeah, that may be, yeah.
All right, but what happens?
Well, we open on Purvis and Buddy, holding down a man and cutting his throat. You didn't cut deep enough, nags Buddy. They hear horses and make a run for the hills, where they find a bunch of skulls and what looks like an Indian burying ground. Arrows kill Buddy as credits roll, and Purvis runs for it.
Well, he didn't last long.
No. 11 days later, Arthur. He has a broken leg, and he whines that he's going to be laid up for 12 weeks. Well, wife Samantha is just glad to have him home for a while. Meanwhile, Purvis buries something out in the dark. Mr. Bruder comes to the saloon and complains about how slow it is in there. Chicory comes to see Sheriff Hunt. Chicory tells the story about his recent trip to the hills and saw Purvis burying his bag. They go over to the saloon to check out Purvis. Hunt ends up shooting Purvis in the leg as Bruder watches from the corner. Well, Bruder comes to see Samantha about fixing up the bullet in Purvis's leg. The doctor's not available, and she's the next best thing. Deputy Nick helps her with the unconscious man. She digs in looking for the bullet in the leg, and it's kind of messy. Elsewhere, a man is killed by Indians in a barn. Well, Clarence goes to see Sheriff Hunt about finding that dead man's body in the barn. Clarence says he went to the jail to tell the deputy on duty, and no one was there.
He
What?
should have been there.
And should have been Purvis and the gal, too? What? Well, Hunt and Chicory go to investigate the barn and the jail, and they do find evidence of Indians. Purvis, Samantha, and Deputy Nick are all missing. Hunt goes to tell Arthur about Samantha. The professor, an Indian in town, looks at the arrow and says, well, those aren't Indians. They were troglodytes.
What?
Yeah. The professor warns that there is no beating those people. They're monsters, and he wants nothing to do with the rescue mission. So, Hunt, Chicory, Arthur, and Bruder get the location from the professor and ride out on a 5-day journey through unknown land to the Trogs' camp. Well, they all camp for the night. Arthur's leg isn't doing well, and they all know he's going to slow him down. Chicory's done amputations in the war, but Arthur's not that bad yet. A couple of Mexicans sneak up on the camp, but Bruder shoots them both. They move camp, and more bandits come and steal the horses. So they're on foot, which is really bad for Arthur. He soon falls behind. Chicory looks at the leg and says, looks like gangrene, and it should come off, but Arthur refuses. And he can't travel like he is, so they leave him behind with some water and food, and hopefully he'll heal, and some rest will fix him up.
Now, Arthur wasn't shot. He fell off a roof doing a construction project before the movie began. So this is not like a battle injury or anything. It was healing and setting up fine until he started riding across the country.
Yeah, he needed to rest and not be traveling. Yeah. Well, the three men come to the hills where we saw Buddy and Purvis earlier with the skulls and the hill walls. They spot a cave way up on the hill, and suddenly troglodytes come out of nowhere and attack. Bruder is mortally wounded and insists on staying there with a pile of dynamite. And Hunt and Chicory move on. They are soon attacked and dragged off to the cave. Well, inside the cave, they find Samantha alive in a cage. She says they ate Purvis, and the men watch as the cavemen drag Deputy Nick out. He's next. They scalp him, and much worse, as Hunt and the others watch. And that's quite a scene.
That is quite a scene.
That's
chop, chop, chop.
That's a majorly graphic scene, yeah. Meanwhile, Arthur wakes up, and he's feeling better, makes his way toward the troglodyte cave. He shoots two of the creatures and cuts something strange out of the neck of one of them. It's a kind of whistle that they use to call each other. And we call them troglodyte. I mean, they are humans. They look human, but they seem way more primitive, way more caveman-like, and don't seem to be using language.
Even the Indians, though, are the ones that came up with the word troglodyte.
Yeah. Hunt tricks three of their captors into drinking opium, so at least a couple of them won't be a problem. And Chicory, he was a funny character, and he starts rambling about flea circuses. And he's got this funny story about,
Do you think the flea circuses was real?
He's kind of off the wall, and they're like, what? Well, Arthur figures out the whistle, uses it to kill another troglodyte as they come running. The troglodytes figure that Hunt poisoned some of them, and so they pull him out of the cage to torture and mortally wound him. Hunt kills a troglodyte with a bone tomahawk.
There it is.
Yep. And Arthur kills the others and comes inside. As the sheriff waits to die, he tells Chicory to lead Arthur and Samantha back to town. Arthur blows his whistle, and this time no one comes. So maybe they're okay now. Did they get them all? Well, the three survivors slowly make their way back to town.
Okay. In the beginning, the professor, the local Indian guy, says there's no way to beat them. Nothing can stop them.
Well, they're not that invincible.
There's only like a dozen of them.
Yeah,
if they went out there with a big enough group, it would not have been any challenge at all.
Well, they didn't know that, and they had an awful reputation, and they were brutal and primitive, and they were good with arrows, the troglodytes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the dialogue here is very formal and precise. They all sound like characters in Deadwood, but with less cursing. Even with that, the performances here are all really well done. Richard Jenkins as Chicory really stands out. He begins as sort of, the goofy, dumb sidekick type, but we find out later on that he really does know what's going on. He's actually very good at what he does.
Yeah, he's very smart and capable. He's just weird and tends to ramble a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of recognizable faces, and it moves at a comfortable pace without rushing things. The first hour and a half or so is pure Western, but the horror elements come into it much later toward the end. When we finally get to the troglodytes, they are excessively brutal and animalistic. It's actually very good.
Yeah, it was.
I approve of this Western.
Okay.
That's what more. Yeah, that's what they needed in Gunsmoke. Some of these troglodytes come into town.
Oh, yeah, and start chopping people up and eating them.
Hey, that would have been good.
That would have been more entertaining.
That would have been much more interesting. And that's the stuff we're going to talk about this week. Over at horrorbulletin.com, you can read our review of Saw VI, Saw V, otherwise known as Saw 6 from 2006. It continues on with the same story. How long can they continue the same little brief bit of a story?
Well, it's amazing, too. I mean, and John is definitively dead.
Has been for a while now.
And yet his work carries on.
Yeah. And it's still good.
Yeah.
6 movies in, it's still entertaining and good.
It was, yeah. The first one is the best, especially if you hadn't seen the first one.
But I would say the next 5 are all roughly equal.
The next 5 are all capable and, entertaining. Yeah.
Yeah, it did not go downhill yet.
Not yet.
House at the End of the Street from 2012 started out downhill and stayed there.
Yeah.
This was kind of awful.
This is one we watched so you don't have to.
Stars Jennifer Lawrence, Max Theriot, Elizabeth Shue, and Gil Bellows.
And the cast. I like these people. I've seen them in other stuff that I like, and they're good. And boy, the script was just failed them.
There's very little good to this movie. By the time the movie gets to anything interesting, it's so boring you just don't care anymore.
Yeah.
It's got some horror stuff to it, but it's stretched out way too thin.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, it's boring.
But if you want to check out our full synopsis on the website, you can.
You can check that out, yes. Okay, well, stop in over at horrorguys.com or horrorbulletin.com, horrorguysshop.com, horrorguyspodcast.com. We need a few more URLs.
Yeah, don't we, though?
All right, well, we'll talk to you again next week with 4 more and a short, just like this week.
Uh-huh.
I'm Brian.
And I'm Kevin.
See you next week.
See ya.